The Middle East, a region etched with historical complexities, finds itself grappling yet again with the age-old conflict between Iran and Israel. This region, rich in culture and history, has been a focal point of global attention for centuries, with its strategic importance and abundant resources making it a hotbed for geopolitical struggles. Rooted in ideological differences and geopolitical ambitions, this volatile relationship has witnessed periods of both simmering tensions and outright hostility. The ideological chasm between the two nations is profound, with Iran's theocratic governance clashing with Israel's democratic framework, each viewing the other as a threat to their existence and regional influence. To understand the current state of affairs, one must delve into the historical backdrop that has shaped this enduring conflict. The roots of this animosity can be traced back to the mid-20th century, when the modern state of Israel was established in 1948, leading to a series of regional conflicts and shifting alliances. The 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran marked a turning point, transforming the nation into an Islamic republic and fundamentally altering its relationship with Israel. This revolution was not just a political upheaval, but a seismic shift in the region's power dynamics, with Iran emerging as a staunch opponent of Western influence and Israel. The new Iranian regime, led by Ayatollah Khomeini, viewed Israel as an illegitimate entity and a symbol of Western imperialism in the region. This perspective was deeply ingrained in the revolutionary ideology, which sought to position Iran as a leader of the Muslim world, opposing what it saw as Western encroachment and Zionist expansion. This ideological stance, coupled with Iran's regional aspirations, laid the groundwork for decades of mistrust and confrontation. Iran's support for various militant groups and its pursuit of regional hegemony have only intensified the animosity, with Israel perceiving these actions as direct threats to its security. Over the years, the conflict has manifested itself in various forms, from proxy wars fought through affiliated militias to covert operations and escalating rhetoric. These proxy wars, often fought in Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza, have drawn in numerous actors, complicating the conflict and making it a multifaceted struggle with no easy solutions. The rivalry has extended beyond the immediate borders of Iran and Israel, impacting the broader Middle East and drawing in regional and global powers. The involvement of superpowers like the United States and Russia, along with regional players such as Saudi Arabia and Turkey, has added layers of complexity to an already intricate conflict. As we navigate the current landscape, it is crucial to recognize the historical baggage that continues to fuel this conflict. The memories of past wars, assassinations, and diplomatic failures linger, influencing the decisions and policies of both nations. The deep-seated animosity, ideological clashes, and geopolitical ambitions serve as constant reminders of the challenges in finding a lasting resolution. Efforts at diplomacy have often been thwarted by mutual distrust and the influence of hardline factions within both countries. Understanding this intricate history is essential for comprehending the current state of affairs and the potential trajectories this conflict might take in the future. The historical context provides a lens through which we can analyze the motivations and actions of both Iran and Israel, offering insights into possible paths forward. The specter of the past hangs heavy over the present, casting a long shadow over any prospects for peace. The legacy of enmity and the scars of conflict are not easily erased, and they continue to shape the narratives and policies of both nations. The Iran-Israel conflict, a microcosm of the broader Middle Eastern quagmire, demands careful consideration and a nuanced understanding of its historical underpinnings. It is a conflict that encapsulates the broader struggles of the region, from sectarian divides to the quest for regional dominance. As we move forward, it is imperative to learn from the mistakes of the past and strive towards a future where dialogue and diplomacy replace the cycle of violence and mistrust. Only through sustained efforts at understanding and cooperation can there be hope for a peaceful resolution to this enduring conflict. Recent times have witnessed a worrying surge in hostilities between Iran and Israel, marked by a series of tit-for-tat strikes and escalating rhetoric. This renewed wave of tensions has heightened fears of a broader regional conflict, setting the stage for a dangerous cycle of violence with potentially catastrophic consequences. Iran, facing increasing pressure from sanctions and international isolation, has seemingly adopted a more assertive posture in the region. This has manifested in a series of provocative actions, including alleged attacks on Israeli-linked shipping in the Persian Gulf, and the continued development of its ballistic missile program. Israel, for its part, has responded with a series of covert operations including targeted airstrikes against Iranian assets in Syria and alleged sabotage attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities. These actions, while often unacknowledged publicly, underscore the severity of the situation and the willingness of both sides to engage in high-stakes brinkmanship. The frequency and intensity of these recent escalations have raised alarm bells across the international community. The lack of direct communication channels between Iran and Israel further exacerbates the situation, increasing the risk of miscalculation and unintended escalation. The Iran-Israel conflict, while often framed within the context of their direct interactions, extends far beyond their respective borders. This conflict is not just a bilateral issue but a regional one, with ramifications that ripple across the Middle East and beyond. A complex web of proxy wars and regional rivalries serves as a force multiplier, amplifying the conflict's destabilizing effects and drawing in a cast of regional and international actors. These proxy wars are often fought in countries already suffering from instability, making the situation even more volatile. Iran, through its support of various militant groups across the Middle East, has effectively extended its reach and influence. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, and various Shia militias in Iraq and Syria have all received varying degrees of support from Tehran, allowing Iran to project power and challenge Israeli interests without engaging in direct confrontation. This strategy allows Iran to maintain a level of plausible deniability while still exerting significant influence. Iranian military support operations, including the provision of weapons, training, and financial aid, have been crucial in bolstering these groups. Tehran's influence in the Middle East is not just limited to military support, it also extends to political and economic spheres, further entrenching its presence in the region. Israel, in response, has adopted a strategy of containment and targeted strikes against Iranian proxies. This has involved a combination of military operations, intelligence gathering, and diplomatic efforts aimed at weakening Iran's regional network and limiting its ability to threaten Israeli security. Israel's approach is multifaceted, involving not just direct military action but also efforts to disrupt supply lines and financial networks that support these proxy groups. Intelligence gathering plays a crucial role in Israel's strategy. By understanding the movements and plans of Iranian proxies, Israel can preemptively strike and disrupt their operations. Diplomatic efforts are also key, as Israel seeks to build alliances and garner international support to isolate Iran and its proxies. This intricate web of proxy warfare has had a devastating impact on the region, fueling instability, exacerbating sectarian tensions, and hindering efforts to achieve lasting peace. The human cost is immense, with countless lives lost and millions displaced. The social fabric of many Middle Eastern countries has been torn apart, making recovery and reconciliation a daunting task. The Syrian civil war, in particular, has become a breeding ground for proxy conflicts, with Iran and Israel both vying for influence and seeking to advance their respective strategic objectives. The war has provided a chaotic environment where various actors can pursue their agendas with relative impunity, further complicating an already dire situation. The involvement of these external powers has prolonged the conflict and made a resolution even more elusive. The recent escalations between Iran and Israel have sent shockwaves through the political landscape, both domestically and internationally. The conflict, which has deep historical roots, has once again brought to the forefront the fragile nature of peace in the Middle East. The reverberations of these tensions are being felt far and wide, affecting not just the two nations involved, but also their allies and adversaries around the globe. Internal divisions, diplomatic posturing, and a resurgence of nationalist sentiments have come to characterize the aftermath of these events. In both countries, political leaders are leveraging the situation to bolster their positions, often at the expense of long-term stability. The rhetoric has become increasingly heated, with each side accusing the other of aggression and provocation. Within Israel, the conflict has reignited debates about security policy and the best approach to countering the Iranian threat. Military experts and political analysts are divided on whether a hardline military response or a more measured diplomatic approach is the best course of action. The public, too, is deeply engaged in these discussions, with opinions varying widely across different segments of society. The government's handling of the situation has drawn both praise and criticism, with some advocating for a more aggressive stance, while others urge restraint and a return to diplomatic channels. The political landscape is highly polarized, with each faction pushing its own agenda. This internal discord is further complicating the government's ability to present a unified front in the face of external threats. On the Iranian side, the government has used the conflict to rally support and deflect attention from internal challenges. Economic hardships and social unrest have plagued the country, and the leadership is keen to shift the focus outward. By portraying Israel as an existential threat, the regime aims to unite the populace and legitimize its hardline policies. Portraying Israel as an existential threat serves to unite the populace and legitimize the regime's hardline policies. This strategy has been somewhat effective as it taps into deep-seated nationalistic and religious sentiments. However, it also risks further isolating Iran on the international stage and exacerbating its economic woes. Internationally, the reactions have been mixed. While many countries have condemned the violence and called for de-escalation, there remains a lack of consensus on how to address the underlying issues fueling the conflict. The United Nations has issued statements urging both sides to come to the negotiating table, but these calls have largely fallen on deaf ears. While many countries have condemned the violence and called for de-escalation, there remains a lack of consensus on how to address the underlying issues fueling the conflict. Diplomatic efforts are ongoing, but the path to peace is fraught with obstacles. Each nation involved has its own strategic interests, making it difficult to find common ground. The political ramifications of this conflict extend far beyond the immediate region. The Middle East has long been a focal point of global geopolitics, and any instability here has the potential to trigger wider repercussions. Countries around the world are closely monitoring the situation, aware that their own security and economic interests could be affected. The involvement of global powers, each with their own strategic interests and alliances, further complicates the situation and hinders efforts to find a peaceful resolution. The stakes are high, and the world watches with bated breath, hoping for a resolution that will bring lasting peace to a region that has seen far too much conflict.